Before we dive into today's show, I have a very special announcement for you. We almost never do this on the podcast, but this one was basically too good not to make sure that you tuned in to the very end. So this week, and only this week, for the first 100 people over at equilibriumnutrition.com, we are offering $500 off the Big Five Labs. It's one of the most insane offers we've ever made, and to be honest, we're going to lose a little bit of money on that. That is for sure. Why would we ever do that? Well, we believe that this is probably the most important time in history in our lives to make sure that your body is optimized. That means your gut, that means your hormones, that means your omega-3s, that means food sensitivities, that means heavy metals, minerals, vitamins in your body. There's no way to know if you have done that unless you lab test. So instead of guessing, the best thing that you can do is test. The Big Five is the ultimate. Every single person in the world would benefit from this. I do it every single March around my birthday, and I'm doing it again this year along with my family and many people in our private practice. So I wanted to be able to offer this to you as well. It's for 100 people. We do hope that you take advantage of this. Simply put, there'll never be another offer like this. We keep this going, that's for sure. And if you really want to know more about it, tune in at the end of the show. I'll go much more in depth. But I hope that this benefits you, your family. It's something that we want to do because it's part of our mission. That's the bottom line. Our mission is to make sure that we've given our community everything that we can in order to support them, support their family, their overall health. So again, thank you for being a part of this community. That's what this is all about, sharing that knowledge, sharing what we do in private practice, what we do in our own lives that you may benefit as well. Take care. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. We're here with our Training Thursday edition of the Cabral Concept. Today, we are getting back into the exercise world and giving you 3 specific kettlebell exercises that I love for helping people develop the glutes, the hamstrings, the calves, the lower back strength, the upper back strength that they want. So essentially, we are talking about 3 kettlebell exercises to transform your backside. And of course, using very careful, very science-based selection of these exercises so that you're able to do these on a weekly basis and being able to benefit from them without the risk of injury. So we're going to get into these 3. I'm going to give you the reasons why I chose them, why I use them in my own program, and also we'll talk about how many sets to do, how often to do them, when to switch it up in your program. So the very first thing I would like to share with you, before you do a real full weight training workout, it is good to do some type of dynamic warm-up. Now, I've mentioned this in the past, and what I'm going to do is link up my previous, at least one, maybe we'll link up 2 different podcasts on dynamic warm-ups, okay? If you can, head over to stephencabral.com/1658. And again, it's Stephen Cabral, Stevens with a PH. And you'll be able to find that over at 1658, and we'll link up the previous shows. Now, what a dynamic warm-up is a safe way to warm up your body in 3 planes of motion. Again, I've done podcasts on that as well. 3 planes of motion, to make it real straightforward, is forward and back, side to side, and then rotating your body. Those are really the only 3 ways in which the human body moves. Sagittal plane, forward and back, frontal plane, side to side, and transverse plane, that's rotational. So when we look at our exercise selection, it should always be essentially from those perspectives, front to back, side to side, and then rotation or anti-rotation for especially the core-based muscles, and then stability around the knees that we'll be talking about today. I always want you to do a dynamic warm-up. Now, people are like, well, I don't really have time for a warm-up, this, that, and the other thing, but here's the thing. If you get injured while exercising, it takes you out of the game. So for you to do a 3 to 5 minute dynamic warm-up, because that's all it's going to take, is a game changer in getting your blood moving and circulating throughout your body, getting your muscles a little bit more warmed up, warming up those tendons and ligaments, As well as I would say this, you're also developing a little bit of heat within the body, and that's going to make you a little bit more pliable as well. So the last thing I'll mention about a dynamic warm-up is that we're oftentimes selecting the exercises based on the workout we'll be doing. So for example, on a workout like this, we're still going to get the upper body into it, but we'll be doing some type of backwards lunge or side lunge. We'll maybe be doing some type of plank. We'll be doing maybe some ankle circles for some mobility in the ankles. But these are simple exercises. They're typically just body weight or maybe using a little bit of bands for the warm-up. No more than 3 to 5 minutes. Of course, you can do a little bit more if you want. I've done a podcast on a general warm-up versus a specific warm-up. You can check out that show as well. And these are, again, safe ways, especially as you get older, of making sure your body does not get injured. Okay, now the next thing I'll say is when you start the exercises, if you do 1, 2, or 3 sets, the first set you really want to do with a lighter weight, somewhere between 50% and maybe 65 to 70% maximum of what your heavier weight will be. And the reason why I say that is that that's a very specific warm-up then for that exercise. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's just one more way that you can keep your body safe, and also you are training your nervous system. So that first set at a little lighter weight allows your brain and your body to be able to be connected through the nervous system, and you're essentially training your body on that movement pathway, right? So you're using what's called the neuromuscular system. Your nervous system is working with your muscles in order to stay balanced and do the exercise correctly, okay? So again, one of the big benefits of having a personal trainer or following a good routine or following at least the proper form for an exercise is not only do you stay safe, but you actually get the maximum benefit from each exercise. So that's really what it's all about. So you're going to do a dynamic warm-up first, and then for each of these exercises, the first set will be a little bit lighter than the heavier sets to come, okay? So we're going to do 2 to 3 sets of this today. If you are a complete beginner, the first time you do any workout, I like you just to do 1 set. That's it, 1 set at a light weight, and here's why. Then you get to gauge over the next 2 days how sore you are. If you're very sore, well, good thing we didn't do 2. If you're mildly sore, well, that was the appropriate amount of a hermetic stressor on your body, which was the exercise. And if you're not sore at all, congratulations. You can go to 2 sets the next workout. And then the same thing we look at. Really sore? Okay, maybe go back to 1 set the next week. Mildly sore? Okay, that was the proper amount for you until you do that again and you end up not being sore. And when you're not sore, okay, now you can try that next set for 3 sets total. And that's the maximum that we would do for these 3 exercises. So again, these don't have to be done all in one workout, but they're certainly complements to each other, and I'll share with you why in just a moment. So again, if you're a beginner, start with 1 set. If you're advanced beginner, intermediate, you've been working out for a while now, 2 sets is appropriate. And if you're advanced, you've been training for a long time, sure, you could do 3 sets your first time. You just won't want to hit your maxes, that's for sure. Meaning you don't want to max out at your heaviest weight for the max amount of reps, which today we're going to be doing each of these for 10 to 15 repetitions, okay? That's going to be our sweet spot. Typically, most workout routines, unless you're on a specific program for strength, etc., you're going to want to be between the 8 and 15 rep range. For most people, that's appropriate for most people. Certainly 5x5s is going to be fine, sometimes 3 to 5 exercises for more neuromuscular based work and strength. And then there's appropriate times to do higher reps as well. But for most people, if you're doing 8 to 15 repetitions, you're going to be in the proper range. And probably for most, we would even say 8 to 12. Okay, so I have podcasts, of course, on what rep range works for what person and the reasons why, because there's always a reason why behind it. So let's get right into it. 3 exercises that I chose that I think are going to be great for transforming your backside, which simply means from the ground up, you're looking at your Achilles and calves below the knee. You're looking at your hamstring complex, which is multiple muscles, the semimembranosus, semitendinosus, much more in there as well. And then you're looking at your glutes, which isn't just one muscle as well, minimus, maximus, medius, and again, there are others that play. And then you're going into your lower back and upper back as well. So we're pretty much focused on the entire back side of the body, which is called training the posterior chain. And again, you can check out a show on that. So why this is so important is that people's posture really breaks down over the course of their lifetime. And that's because we're essentially hinged forward. We're leaning over our desk. We're leaning over a steering wheel in the car. Our pectoral muscles get tight and our back muscles get weak. So chest gets tight, back muscles get weak and overstretched. And then what happens is the hamstrings get tight, right? So glutes get weak. We're no longer doing sprints. We're no longer training our glutes, and they get weak. They start to sag. So our goal is to strengthen all of those muscles that you can't see in the mirror. They're so important to train. They're more important than the ones probably on the front side of the body for most people because of the ratio of strength, okay? So the first one I want to do is going to train the glutes and hamstrings predominantly. Now, it's a great stabilizing exercise as well. It's an anti-rotation-based exercise. It's called a one-legged Romanian deadlift. And what you're doing is you're holding the kettlebell, let's say, in your right hand. You hold that kettlebell right beside your IT band on your right leg, right beside your right hip, okay? So we'll have images today at stevencabral.com/1658. If you want to follow along right now, you can see what they look like. So this is a one-leg Romanian deadlift holding a kettlebell, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to keep a nice tight core. We're going to keep a neutral spine, and I'm going to have you lift your right foot off the ground, ideally the whole time, but of course you can tap your toe if you need for stability, and you're going to point your toe behind you as you begin to actually reach backwards with that right foot, stretching your body out so you're only on your left leg. Okay, you're going to keep your eyes looking forward. You're going to keep your back neutral, never round out that back. If you're rounding out your back, grab a lighter weight, okay? And you can certainly practice this body weight. You'll still get benefit of doing this body weight, especially if this exercise is brand new to you. Okay, but believe it or not, when you start to add weight eventually, it actually helps you stay a little bit more balanced. So now you're on your left leg, and you're holding the weight only in your right hand, okay? So we're stretching back with the right leg that's coming off the ground. The kettlebell is staying pointed straight down to the ground. We're not doing anything with it, okay? We're just keeping that shoulder retracted back. And then we are shifting our weight onto the left heel, and we're sitting back into the left glute, okay? That's your butt muscle on the left side. Now, as we stretch back, we're going to maintain about a 20-degree bend in your left knee. That's going to be appropriate for most people. If you're advanced, of course, you can keep your leg a little stiffer. But the reason why this is a little bit better is because so many people have such tight hamstrings, we want to make sure we keep those hamstrings safe. So we're going to sit back. We're going to maintain about a 20-degree bend in that knee. That's it, 10 to 20 degrees. That's all. We're not squatting down. We're actually keeping the leg pretty stiff. And we're sitting back where we start to feel the stretch in the left hamstring. Those are the muscles from the knee up to your glute, okay, your butt muscle. So that is the back of the leg. We'll look at that as the hamstring complex. And you're going to feel the stretch in the hamstring and then to your glute. When do you know when to stop? When the stretch feels about right for you. And then eventually you won't be able to stretch anymore, and that's it. You're at the end of that movement. That's great. So now your back is coming a little bit towards the floor, but you're still maintaining a neutral spine. You'll see this in the photos. And then what you're going to do is don't lose that tightness in your core. You're actually going to use that left leg to help sit you back up. And I would say sit's the wrong terminology there, to stand you back up because you're maintaining that 20-degree bend in your knee. It can straighten out a little bit more towards the top. Now, if you need to stabilize, use the right foot to tap down on the floor. That's okay. Just use the ball of the foot and the toes. Not a problem, okay? And then you'll reset, you'll keep your core tight, and then go back into it. Now, advanced would be you don't touch the right foot down. You keep the stability on that left leg the whole time. You keep your body working hard. You keep your knee from rotating. So you actually get huge benefits in what's called the VMO, okay? That's the inside teardrop muscle on the quadricep. And the quadricep muscles are the ones that go from the top of your knee up to the top of the hips, like the groin-based area, on the front of your leg, right? Hamstrings on the back, quadriceps on the front. So we're actually getting some stability out of those muscles. There's no doubt about it. They actually have to stabilize to keep you from rotating, especially that VMO muscle. So I love this exercise. I've been doing it before kettlebells even became popular, so just with dumbbells or even with a barbell. And the reason why I liked it is that I realized whenever I started to feel knee pain when I was younger, it was typically because my stabilizer muscles were not as strong and or my hamstrings were not as strong as my quadriceps. So even if you train both your hamstrings and your quadriceps, sometimes because of maybe a lot of sprinting or running or those types of things, maybe your quadriceps are developing a little bit more. So what I recommend are using this one-legged exercise because you get to treat each leg as an individual because one hamstring, one leg might be stronger than the other. So, and for me, for sure, my right side is always stronger than my left. And the reason is, even though I train them individually, which is just called unilateral exercises, is because I am really primed with my nervous system for my right side, not as much with my left. I'm not ambidextrous to say the least. If I try brushing my teeth with my left hand, it's pretty hilarious. So what I say is train unilaterally, unilateral chest presses, unilateral hammies. Now, again, you could do things, of course, with both arms at the same time for certain exercises. There's nothing wrong with that. But keeping a one-legged exercise in your program, I think is fantastic. I really do, whether it's one-legged squats or sit-ups, one-legged, not sit-ups as the actual sit-ups, but squat down to a box and stand back up. One-leg RDLs are fantastic. So this is a great exercise. Typically, I recommend starting with 8 to 10 repetitions on each side because you're going to do both sides. You need to be able to make sure that you can do as many with your weaker side as your dominant side. So I typically start with my left side. There are always reasons to break that rule, but I want to make sure I start with my left side so that I do just as many with my left as my right because I know my right side is stronger. So I don't keep doing more with my right. I simply stop at what I can do with my left. So 8 to 10 repetitions is appropriate. Eventually, you could work this up to higher repetitions, up to 15 if you chose to. So there's two ways to look at it. And again, I would love you to check out a previous podcast on this on how to progress, but you could add more reps at the same weight, or you could add more weight at the same amount of reps. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so the first exercise is the one-legged RDL. I do that first because it requires the most concentration, most stability, and I don't want you doing it when you're tired. Okay, so the next one, love this exercise, and almost no one does it. It's an interesting exercise, and it pairs itself really well with kettlebells over any type of other equipment, and it's called a backwards lunge pass-through. So a kettlebell, backwards lunge pass through, and I like to alternate sides with this. So here's how it works. You hold that kettlebell again in your right hand, okay? So it's only one kettlebell. We only need one kettlebell for this whole workout, which is why I like it as well, because maybe you only have one kettlebell. Great. Okay, so here's what we're doing. You're holding that one kettlebell with your right hand. Now you're going to lunge backwards, not forward, because lunging backwards is also easier for people and more protective on the knees. A lot of people lunge forward, they do it with improper form, and they end up feeling the knee pain. Well, when you lunge backwards, you can sit into your front hip. That allows you to basically form two right angles with your legs, and that's going to take away most of that knee pain for most people. Plus, it stretches the hip flexor on the back leg, something that you're not getting with that first exercise. So now we get to complement that. We get to stretch the hip flexors, and we do more glute work with this backwards lunge. So now what we do is we keep that kettlebell just with your arms straight. Again, shoulders pulled back, scapular depression, good posture, right? Think about good posture. As you lunge backwards, you don't let your knee touch the ground, okay? You don't let your knee touch the ground. But you're sitting back. You keep your knee an inch or 2 inches, or if you need to, keep your knee a little bit higher. If you feel too much stretch in the beginning, you'll improve. And then what you do is while you're down in the lunge position, not while you're moving, but while you're down, you actually stabilize. And then you pass the kettlebell through under the left leg to your right hand. It's an amazing exercise, okay? And then you pass it to your left hand. And then what you do is you step forward now and stand up with that right foot. So the right foot steps back to where the left foot is. And now what you do is you have the kettlebell in your left hand. Well, now you're going to lunge backwards with your left leg, a couple inches above the ground. You're going to stabilize. And once you're stable with your chest up high, core engaged, you're going to pass with your left hand through to your right hand. And then once it's in your right hand and it's stable and it's strong, then you're going to step back with your left leg to your right. You'll stand up nice and tall, and you'll repeat the process, lunging backwards with your right leg and passing through with your right hand to your left hand. Great exercise. You keep the kettlebell off the ground the whole time. Why do I love this exercise? And that's because people tend to fly through their exercise. Like, how quickly can I get in my 10 reps or whatever rep range you might be? That's not the goal. The goal is actually time under tension with good form. It's one of the greatest ways to make strides in terms of your body composition, body transformation. Time under tension. So if you do an exercise in 10 seconds, you will not get as much benefit as you doing that same exercise with the same amount of weight, everything being equal, in 30 seconds or 40 seconds. So time under tension, again, other things are the same, will get you better results because your muscles are forced to work for a little bit longer, a little bit harder. Great exercise to do. Again, use a weight that's light enough that you can maintain proper form. It's not about lifting heavy weights. It's about proper form. You can always go up in weight. That's an easy variable to control. Start light, work out by yourself or with someone that is not judging you, because honestly, one of the reasons why people won't get injured if they use proper form. But one of the reasons injuries can come up is you're in a group class, you're competing against other people, you don't want to be lifting lighter weights than other people, and you do things that are inappropriate. So lift by yourself, start light, get rid of the ego, and you'll get better results. You really will. It's hard. Again, I find myself too, if I'm working out with someone else, like, okay, let me push to the next level. It's just kind of a natural thing that a lot of people have, especially if they've got a little bit of that the competitor in them. But, what I would say is it's okay. Just start by yourself, practice body weight, and go through it. And then you can always add a little bit more weight. It's a great exercise. Love that, because you're staying in the eccentric position. That means the lowered position, the hard part, you're staying in that for a longer period of time, probably a second or two more than you typically would, and you're forced to stabilize. Love that exercise. Great for the glutes, great for those hip flexors to be stretched. Okay, the last exercise you're going to move into, let's say this. Your RDLs, let's say 8 to 10 reps. The backwards pass-through lunges, you're alternating sides. So we're going to do about 10 to 12 reps with each side, so we go a little bit lighter in weight. So that's going to be 20 to 24 total reps. So pretty easy. We can even say if we want to do 10 reps for everything, that's fine to keep it simple. There's no issue with that. Okay, swings. Swings is the last exercise we're going to do, and we're actually going to do both hands on the kettlebell. You can do one-arm swings. You can do all sorts of different things. We're going to do two-hand swings, and what we're going to do with this one is we're going to use, again, a weight appropriate for us. The most important thing with a swing is this. This is the absolute most important thing, is that you do not look down and round your back, okay? If you want to hurt your lower back, you'll look down and you'll round your back. So don't do that. We don't want that at all. So what we do is we're going to fix our eyes on one object straight ahead of us, okay? No need to move those eyes. Keep those eyes on one fixed object. You can actually do that with all three of these exercises, and I recommend it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to pick a weight up. We're going to stand up. Our feet are going to be about shoulder width apart. We're going to keep the kettlebell hanging between the legs. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sit back with our glutes, kind of like the RDLs we did. We're going to sit back. We're not squatting, okay? We're basically keeping that 20-degree bend or so. As we sit back, we're going to let the kettlebell swing behind us, almost like you are the center in football hiking it to the quarterback, right? So you're passing that kettlebell, but keep your eyes looking forward. Pass that kettlebell to the quarterback behind you. And then you're going to thrust. You don't move the kettlebell, really. The kettlebell is going to move on its own. What you do is you squeeze your glutes and you hip thrust forward. You thrust forward, and that weight moves along with you. Now that kettlebell starts to fly. For the first rep, it won't go that high. Don't force it. Your kettlebell swings are getting that momentum going, right? This is a ballistic but controlled exercise. So we get the kettlebell moving a little bit on the first rep, a little bit more in the second rep, and then by that third rep, it's pretty much where we want it to be. So where do we want it to be? Well, it can be anywhere from your waist height, like your navel, your belly button, all the way up to about your chin. I don't really like most people going above the head. There's a time and a place for that. I've certainly used them with my own program and others. But what happens is a lot of times it breaks momentum, and then you essentially have to catch it to a greater degree. You don't keep the same tension on the core as it starts to come back down. Now, again, I know people will say, well, you can do this. Yes, all of that is true. But for your average individual, absolutely unnecessary. And for the most part, greater chance for injury. So what I'm doing is working with the average person to get the greatest amount of benefit, right? That's what it's all about. So we're going to sit back. We're not going to squat. We're going to sit back, hinge our hips, make sure our hips go behind our heels. We're going to get that kettlebell moving towards the quarterback behind us, and then we're going to keep our eyes forward. We're going to thrust, which means squeeze the glutes, okay? We're going to contract the glutes, and then that does what? Well, it works the butt muscles, but it's also going to open the hip flexors in the front as we squeeze forward, letting that kettlebell swing up in front of us. We're not going to bend our elbows. We're not going to lift the kettlebell. We're going to allow the kettlebell to swing. Okay, now that's going to swing, let's say, to right around chest height for most people. Fantastic. Now, you're not going to try to catch it on the way down. You're going to allow for controlled descent right back through your legs. Keep your eyes looking forward. Keep your back with neutral spine, which means do not round your spine. Keep your core engaged. Hike it to the quarterback. Swing back through, and we're going to do that for 10 to 15 repetitions. It is a fantastic exercise that stretches the glutes and then contracts the glutes. That contracts the hip flexors and then stretches the hip flexors. Works the hamstrings at the same time. This is one of those exercises that also gets your heart rate up, which is why it's nice to do at the end of your interval-based circuit. So I'll do that. Sometimes I'll do a 5-exercise circuit, and I'll actually put this as the last exercise to get my heart rate going. And to really, you can do this when you're tired as long as you keep good form, and it keeps that body moving. And it's so great for your hamstrings, your glutes, and your core. It's one of the exercises that I love putting in a lot of different programs. If I'm kind of looking for like what's one more where I can get that heart rate cranking and also work those important glute muscles, hamstring muscles, and open up the hip flexors, it's the kettlebell swing. So love this exercise. All of these exercises you can check out right over at stevencabral.com/1658. Of course, you can look at the photos. You can check out my book, A Man's Guide to Muscle and Strength. That's one I wrote about, well, now it's been over a decade. But again, the same exercises hold true. The exercises that are the best exercises people were doing back in the early 1900s to like 1920s, early bodybuilding. Again, you're not looking to become a bodybuilder, but you're doing good compound movements. A lot of the Russian kettlebell exercises became more popular in the 80s, 90s, and certainly by the year 2000. But again, these are tried and true. So the last thing I'll say is this. You want to create a workout program based on science. You don't want to just say, oh, that looks like fun, I'll do that. That looks like that fun, I'll do that. You want to do ones where there's actually a thought process behind it. So again, work with a local personal trainer that's certified through National Academy of Sports Medicine, American College of Sports Medicine, National Strength and Conditioning Association. There's lots of great programs. Those are 3 great ones. You can work with an exercise physiologist, anyone that knows this type of work, a lot of chiropractors, PTs, and get yourself set up with a good program. Or you can use a good book that I just mentioned. There are obviously many other great books to work from, and watch some YouTube videos too on someone that you can trust in terms of really good form. So hopefully this was beneficial. Thanks so much for tuning in. And of course, you can head on over to stevencabral.com/1658 for additional details on today's show. Thanks so much. Take care. I'll talk with you tomorrow. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.